Hi, and welcome to the Arela Acoustics installation of your Element 360 subwoofer upgrade for the Tesla Model 3 premium audio system. What we have here is our 8-inch replacement woofer, our amplifier and bracket which mounts underneath the factory enclosure so it's completely hidden in the car, and then our adapter which adapts from the factory subwoofer to the aftermarket woofer that we're using. Also our quick sync wiring harness which is plug and play into the vehicle. Let's show you how this installs. Before we disconnect anything, we want to make sure we power the car down correctly. For the installation here, we're initially going to start with just taking out the bottom of the floor. And then from there, we're going to remove this panel, the flooring area, and the right side panel. To be able to remove this panel, we're going to use a pry tool, be able to get underneath of it and pop it out. It's got 4 clips across the bottom. You're just going to unclip it and pull it out of the vehicle. So now that we have the lower floor and lower panel out, we need to remove this top panel. There's 2 clips, one on each side, that we'll need to do to release this. So now that we've got the 2 clips out from each side, we're going to go ahead and lift up the weather stripping and just bring down the panel here. So now that we got our panels out, upper and lower, it's time to remove the tub. To do that, we have these 2 little clips, and then it's just Velcroed onto the sides. To be able to remove the bottom of the seat here, there's 2 tabs that you're going to have to press while lifting the seat up. Can't see them, but you can feel them, and you're going to push them to the outside. And that allows the seat to lift. We're going to do the same to the other side. So now that you have the clips undone, the last thing you got to do is there are 2 connectors down here to release the seat. So now that we have the bottom of the seat out, we need to release this panel. So we're going to fold down the back seat, and it's pretty simple. You're just going to pull from the top area. So as we do that, it's going to release and we're going to lift up and out. The last thing that we need to do to be able to remove this is to take this clip out here. So the last final panel that comes out before removing the subwoofer is this lower panel, and it just lifts out. To be able to move the subwoofer enclosure and the amplifier, there's 4 10mm bolts to do that. One here, one there, one here, and one here. Once you have all those apart, and you have all your amplifier connections disconnected, the whole enclosure will come right out of the vehicle. To remove the amplifier from the subwoofer, you're going to need a T30 Torx to be able to do this. To remove the subwoofer, we're going to need a T20 Torx for the screws. Once you have the factory subwoofer removed, we're going to go ahead and install the subwoofer wiring. 2 black and red wires. Once again, we want to make sure red goes to red, black goes to black on the terminals of the subwoofer, and we want to leave about 12 inches of length coming out of the box. Once you got your red and black connections made, those 2 of them, we're now going to mount the ring and all the screws. Those 4 screws on the outside are a T20 Torx. The 8 stainless screws that mount the woofer are 2.5mm hex. Once we have the woofer mounted back into the factory enclosure, we can remount the factory amplifier. It's time to run our power wire. First thing I'm going to do is remove this foam piece, which exposes the 12-volt connection. Now we can start laying our wire through the vehicle. Once again, we're going to follow this factory loom up and back and go back to where the subwoofer is. Once we get ready to mount the power wire, this is going to require a 13mm socket. Also, before connecting to the 12-volt, we do want to make sure the fuse is removed, so that way we're not sending any power to the back of the car inadvertently. Now, it's time to zip tie. Once all your loom is ran and everything's zip tied, it's then time to cut the end of the zip ties off. So one last thing before we mount the subwoofer. The wire loom that runs across the bottom has a little locking tab. We want to go ahead and pull that off and loosen this wire. Now we're ready to reinstall the subwoofer. Now that our subwoofer enclosure is back in, we can go ahead and reconnect the factory amplifier and ground our system. All right, now it's time to install the amplifier. First, we want to make our power connection and our subwoofer connection. Now, we have our input connection, which goes right here. With all your connections made, we can now install the amplifier down into the cavity. What we're going to want to do is lift up the factory loom and go ahead and slide the amplifier down in. So the last thing that we'll need to do, the factory wire loom, we're going to push back on top of the post and we're going to tuck our wire back inside. At this point, we can put our fuse in our amplifier and test and verify everything works. When we first put the fuse in, we might see a little spark, just the amplifier charging its caps. Now that we've tested it and verified everything's working, it's time to put the car back together and do the final bolts of the subwoofer enclosure. Now that we got everything bolted back together, it's time to put the interior back into the car. Now that we've got everything installed and the car back together, it's time to go out and enjoy it.